Welcome to the Game Changer 00100 show. I am your host, Game Changer. So, people in the West and actually in the East too. In fact, it seems like it's everywhere but the South have stopped having kids. Women have stopped having kids. Now, in my opinion, there's a lot of factors that go into play, and we have to really take into account from a historical perspective. There is a number of women who always just wanted to have kids because it fits into their nurturing instinct. And then there are the women who want to have kids so someone can take care of them when they get older. The latter women no longer exist, or they exist, I should say, but they're not having kids. Why? Because, with Social Security and everything going on, they're going to be taken care of regardless. So I have kids at that point. From their perspective, they don't have the joy of motherhood. They just see heartache and pain. These are the women who historically looked at child rearing as a chore and as a means to an end. And that end is, once again, protection in old age. And also society and social standing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you take away all those things, and we see the number of women who actually want to have kids, and a significant amount of them. And it's very low, as is the birth rate in all communities. Black, Latin, Asian, white. Here in the US, it's all below 2.5, which is what's needed for replacement. Now, I want to talk to you a second about what does it mean when, let's just say, because this has been going on for quite some time, but let's just say if one generation stops having 2.5 kids, say the entire population of an area is 1,000 people, right? Now, let's just say after a generation, they double their population. So, first generation was 1,000, next generation is 2,000, following generation is 4,000, 8,000. So after 4 generations, you increase your, not to mention the ones that still live, but let's just say that they're not there. You have made your populations 8 times as strong. That's 4 generations. Now let's just say you go in the opposite direction, and instead of having twice as many, you just take 1 generation and you have half as many. So after 1 generation, you go from 1,000 to 500. And then those 500 start doubling again, and then they go back to 1,000. And then after the 4th generation, which, remember, in the other scenario, it's 8,000 people. You have 2. And that's just 1 generation that skipped, that decided to do something culturally different. You already made your population 1/4 of what it would be. This has been going on for generations, which is why places like India, China, they have a population of billions, or between the two countries, that is. And we here in the US have a population of hundreds of millions, between 300 to 400 million. And that's where we're at. There is a correlation between prosperity and the number of children women have, and it's not because of something that men are doing. Men aren't saying, I have so much money, I don't want kids. It's not the men that are saying that. Now, it could be because women are biologically investing more in children. And they I would rather spend that 9 months touring the world on a private jet, girls trip, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and try to get a modern woman to stop drinking for 9 months. Yeah. Or vaping or weed or whatever it is they like to do. Try getting them to eliminate vice for 9 months. Hard sell. All right, so I haven't seen this video that I'm about to share with you, but I'm about to share it regardless. So hit the like button. the title caught my attention.
And I'm thinking, this would be so much toddler involved. Not one time.
Motherhood is a scam.
I think we need to normalize regretting having your children.
But for the most part, motherhood is deeply unsatisfying. And we don't talk about it enough.
We are mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually exhausted in motherhood, okay?
I'm tired of being a mom. I'm tired. I'm exhausted.
Birth rates are declining worldwide. The media circus never fails to paint it as the worst crisis facing humankind, and yet policymakers refuse to look at the issues driving the declining birth rate. The master plan to fix declining birth rates? Ignore every single issue that is impacting birth rates. Hand women a baby bonus so small it wouldn't even cover 2 weeks of expenses. Pretend daycare doesn't cost more than rent. Okay, so let's start with the basics. When people talk about declining birth rates, they're usually talking about the fertility rate, which is essentially how many children the average woman has during her lifespan. To keep the population stable, that number needs to sit around 2.1 per woman. Right now, about 3/4 of
It really needs to be more like 2.5. The 2 is to replace the mother and father. The 0.5 is for incidentals. Incidentals meaning that the child is born with certain deficiencies, mental retardation, or physical deformities, blind, deaf, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, for whatever reason, it's not a healthy birth and they likely will not grow up to give birth themselves. Also, something just happens and, the child dies before maturity. So they want 2.5 just to sustain the population. Remember that 1,000 people I talked about earlier? That's just to make sure that every generation has 1,000. That's not a growing population. That's just to keep the population where it's at. But also, like I said, I haven't seen this, but I hope this isn't going where I think it's going, and to where they're going to say that women need to be paid to have kids. That is what welfare is. And I hate to say this, but we've tried that. And what we found is a culture of, what's the word I'm looking for? In addition to a culture of dependency, a culture of entitlement. Children are becoming born entitled. And then Black communities just become baby farms, and the farmers are the ones getting paid. And it's just ridiculous. What happens is it becomes a job to have and rear kids. Essentially, these women are being babysat, being paid to babysit their own children. And at any job, there's oversight to make sure that the person is doing it properly, and that oversight has the ability to fire you if you are not. That really doesn't exist with the current welfare system. Nobody is going to, they're going to check to see if the child is alive or being abused, but these are just absence of negatives. Nobody is actually checking to see if these are good mothers. And the same will happen if you just gave people, money to have kids. Nobody's going to check to see if they are good mothers.
Countries worldwide are already below that level, which means, yes, populations are shrinking. But here's the part that governments actually care about, and also fewer consumers. Translation, it's GDP panic. But here's the thing, GDP doesn't actually measure whether or not people are thriving and happy. It doesn't track happiness, it doesn't track health, it doesn't track quality of life at all. And that's why a country like the US can flex the world's largest GDP while also being one of the most unhealthy and unhappy developed nations with lower life expectancy.
She's killing it. Basically, what she just said is Americans are rich and miserable. And that's why Passport Bros exist. And that is what I noticed in my travels. It's not just about women. People are genuinely happier almost everywhere else in the world. And really the only thing that makes them unhappy is their lack of money. But rest assured, it's when I look at the poor people in other countries, all they need is a sustained income to have complete happiness. The type of happiness that really don't exist in large numbers here in the US. Hit the like button.
And some of the worst mental health statistics in the industrialized world. Meanwhile, places like Denmark and New Zealand and Finland consistently rank as some of the most healthy and the most happy and most family friendly, despite having much smaller economies and a much smaller GDP. And that's really the lens that like most politicians look through. Not are families happy and not do people want kids and why don't people want kids. The question is always how do we keep the labor machine running so that we can stay rich? Instead of managing the economy to benefit the population, they try to manage the population to benefit the economy. Wrong priorities, babe. When people think about the post-World War II baby boom, the story usually goes that soldiers came home, reunited with their sweethearts, everyone rushed to start families. But that's not the whole picture and that's not really honest. The boom wasn't just about romance and reunions, although that did play a part. It was a result of income equality and massive government support. The GI Bill gave returning soldiers access to cheap mortgages and higher education. The New Deal had already reshaped the economy in a way that addressed inequality. Homes were affordable, jobs were stable, and for most families and households, one income was enough to sustain an entire family. On top of that, during that time, childcare often came from extended family. Grandparents weren't still working full-time jobs at age 70, so they were...
It's funny because she's still trying to sustain feminism while she is given a very poignant argument. You know, extended family, you have to pay people more. The government spending and blah, 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 blah. Government, the GI Bill, that's not government spending. That's men working, fighting, and dying. That's what that is. Now you could say opportunity to work, but that's not giving money. That's not giving money. That's, you know, I'm not going to say a soldier who, especially one who returns from a world war. I'm not going to say that he was given money. That's ridiculous. And then she says, you know, one income can sustain, and child care came from the extended family. So you have a one income family, you have two adults, the man is out working, the woman is at home, the kids are at home, and for some reason the woman dropped the kids off with the quote unquote extended family. What? I'm scratching my head on that. Like, what is it you do here? Okay.
Available to help raise kids or look after them. Compare that to today. Jobs are insecure, house prices are skyrocketing, childcare costs are insane. In the US alone, the childcare crisis is draining over $122 billion a year from working families and the wider economy. And yet politicians seem mystified why people aren't lining up to have more kids. Millennials in particular, like my generation, were told to get higher education, take on mountains of debt because that's how you're going to get a good job, that's how you're going to get ahead. None of that really worked out for most people. This isn't like an economy or an environment
Why do you need a house to be happy? And I'm not because she talked about, places in the world where you don't need a lot of money to be happy. Like, can't you and your boyfriend rent an apartment or something and have some kids and be happier?
Where having kids is a good idea, and then we got blamed when fertility rates dropped. Okay, like, sorry we didn't major in barefoot and pregnant studies. So with birth rates continually dropping, you'd think that governments would take a step back and be like, how do we fix this? You'd think they'd have a serious look at why people aren't having kids and why people don't want kids, increasingly so. Unaffordable housing, crushing debt, childcare that costs more than rent. But instead, their solutions are more tone deaf than your uncle singing karaoke after 13 beers. Some countries have tried baby bonuses, basically handing parents meager amounts of cash in hopes to incentivize them to have kids. In the United States, one proposal was a one-time $5,000 check for every newborn.
You hear that? It's meager. This is meager amounts. This is just so meager. This is a meager amount.
As if $5,000 is going to spark a new baby boom, which sounds nice until you realize that even giving birth in the US costs like $10,000 minimum.
It does not cost $10,000 to give birth. And I hear all this stuff, but I see more babies than I see people with $10,000. I don't have any kids, but I don't think that if I don't have $10,000, they'll push it back in there. Like, yeah.
And that's if nothing goes wrong. That's before you buy a crib, diapers, a car seat, or factor in any pregnancy-related expenses up until that point. In South Korea, which has the lowest fertility rate in the entire world, the government offers parents about $530 a month for each newborn, and yet the birth rate there continues to nosedive, because $530 barely makes a dent when childcare can cost over $1,000 a month. Again, not including any other expenses. And then there are the more dystopian attempts, like the Medals of Motherhood, which, fun fact, were literally a Nazi-era invention to reward women for having more children, so that's fun. What this all proves is that these incentives, if you could call it that, isn't about supporting families, it's about boosting GDP. They're not actually trying to fix the root of the problem, and if they are, they're so woefully off base.
Listen, I'm going to give the solution to the problem, because their focus is on, or at least all of her ideas, is to offer more financial incentives to do this. What I want to do is I want to de-incentivize not doing it. How do you do that, Game Changer? Okay. Make it so your Social Security isn't tied to your income. It's tied to your children's income. Meaning a portions of your children's income goes to your Social Security. So if your kid is a doctor and makes $300,000 a year, and you have 4 kids like that, then you retire, making like 10%, of what he's making of the one kid. And once again, you have 4 of them. So that's 12, or excuse me, that's $120,000 a year that you retire on because you raised 4 doctors. And if you raise, a Pookie and a Ray Ray and a Keisha and a Shaniqua that don't contribute shit, then you don't get shit. Get it? Got it? Good. Because they're not paying taxes.
It's handing out a $5,000
The better parent you are, the better you retire.
baby bonus might seem generous if you are blissfully unaware of all of the costs associated with having a child, but it doesn't change the fact that wages are stagnant, housing is out of reach for most normal people, and mothers are expected to take on most of the burden for child rearing. So they want us to have kids to secure the future, but meanwhile I'm just trying to secure my phone from spam calls and weird emails, which is why I use Aura, who's the sponsor of this video.
Oh, crap.
You ever get those like random spells, your name, you definitely don't want having access to that information. And the wild part is that it's completely legal. Aura is know how do I opt out of this deep dives on Reddit. Aura just does it all for you. It also automatically the same as leaving a sign on your front door with an open door that says come, or a locking down people having kids. Worth it. None of it adds up. First, there's the obvious, the economic strain. Side hustles just to... Then there's the other in the room, which is the climate anxiety and instability. Gen Z and millennials in particular are very open in saying, why would I want to bring a child into this world? Why would I want to bring kids into like a collapsing planet? Between climate change, political unrest, and even rising inequality, the future feels way too unstable to be a safe place to be raising a family. You really do have to exercise a lot of cognitive dissonance to ignore that fact. And then there's the gender inequality in parenting, which is a big one. Even in households where women work as much or even more than their partners, they still shoulder most of the domestic load and childcare duties. In Australia, for example, women spend nearly double the time on unpaid household work, which adds up to about 18.4 hours a week, compared to just 12.8 for men. And in the US, women who earn more than their husbands still shoulder most of the domestic work, nearly 8 hours per week more than their husbands on average. Then there's the socio-cultural impact. It just doesn't end. Dads get praised for doing the bare minimum. Changing a diaper every now and then earns them a medal, basically, while mothers do literally...
You're not going to get any kids out of this woman. You're not. She had some good points, but at the end of the day, she won't let go of feminism. She won't let go of feminism. Therefore, there isn't a society where you have feminist women having a bunch of kids. That's it. That's all. They just don't.
Everything else the whole rest of the time and still get shamed if they're not doing it 100% perfectly. There is no way to be a mother without shame and nitpicking, especially from strangers online, but just from the world at large.
There's no way of being a mother without shame or nitpicking. So people are shaming and nitpicking mothers. Ha ha, you're a mother. What? What? I got to go to Target later on today to get some vitamins. I'm just going to point out mothers and just shame them. Ha ha, your vagina was stretched. Ha ha, you got milk in your boobs. What the hell? Oh, she's cuckoo.
The truth is, if women got to be dads, the birth rate would probably skyrocket. Social media has also shattered the glossy myths of motherhood that women were historically pressured to suffer through in silence. We've gone from the 1960s housewife facade to mums posting online about how much they regret having their kids and how crushing the mental load is. And it's not like they don't love their kids, they just hate motherhood specifically. And the general...
So it's not that they don't love their kids, they just hate motherhood specifically. What that means is that you don't feel like the children is reward enough for the effort of motherhood. That's what that means. It's like I don't like my job, for example. Person saying I don't like my job. You're basically saying that your paycheck isn't reward enough for your job.
Complaints are that they hate everything that motherhood did to their lives and how they have no support from their partner. I swear to God, every second mum I meet in person or see online is complaining about how much they hate it, how useless their partner is, how stressed they are, how they can't do anything. Why would anyone sign up for that? Well, women aren't anymore, that's the thing. And finally, there's just been a shift in values. Younger generations are simply prioritizing freedom or pets or travel or their own personal goals over being a parent. To more and more young people, being a parent just doesn't feel like a personal milestone anymore. People are turning to pets instead of kids though, I've noticed. Adopting fur babies.
Buy a dog and die alone. And I can't stand the word fur baby.
because A, it's more affordable, B, it's kind of more realistic at the moment, and C, it's just a lot less stressful. More and more people will never have grandchildren with 2 legs, but the rise of people taking on fur babies is great news for the pet industry. So, silver linings, I guess. But here's the best way that I can explain it.
So this rod actually feels that, a cycle that will end humanity is good for the pet companies.
In zoos, animals don't really breed well in captivity, generally. They develop something called zoochosis. They pace around in circles, literally gnaw at the bars of their enclosure. They chew on or pull at their own fur. They just kind of go nuts because you've taken them out of their natural environment, stripped away their freedom and their stimulation, and put them in a cage. Modern life for humans isn't all that different when you think about it. Most people are trapped in what are basically economic cages, endless work, no stability, no community support. We are so far removed from our natural environment, it's not funny. We have this kind of like collective zoochosis. And just like animals in captivity, humans also instinctively stop breeding when their environment feels unsafe or unstable. And it's not a conscious decision most of the time, it's just common sense.
Never has there ever in human history been an environment that is more safe than it is in modern times. So before male humans hunted the saber-toothed tiger into extinction, was society for humans safer or less safer? What are they talking about? This is more of the give me stuff and I'll give you babies. That's what she's trying to put out there. That's what she's trying to put into the ethos. Give me stuff and I'll give you babies. However, what society has come to realize is that the more stuff you have, the less babies you have. That's why the countries with like the highest GDP have the fewest kids. Let me look something up. Country with highest fertility rate. Let's see. Niger, Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, Somalia. Are these countries just balling? Are these like the safest countries? Yeah.
And biology, if the nest doesn't feel safe, if you don't put a baby in it, if resources are scarce and stress levels are high.
If resources is scarce, but how come the countries with the scarcest resources have the most children? Like ours is like 1.3 and Niger is 6.6 to 7.0. This is her graph for more resource. Oh crap.
And the future looks uncertain, you don't reproduce. And that's what we're seeing now. By and large, people aren't refusing to have kids because they're selfish or they're buying too much avocado toast. They're avoiding it because the environment that they've been boxed into feels hostile to having a child. I think it is really that simple. The cages may look like office.
Yeah. The people in Niger, everything is fine there. There's no hostility.
Cubicles and overpriced apartments instead of steel bars, but the effect is the same. The instinct is to survive and get your head above water first and put off breeding until or unless conditions improve. And that's the one thing governments around the world refuse to address when they are trying to fix the declining birth rate. Most people today are completely cut off from the natural world, from the stability and the rhythms that we are biologically hardwired to live by. Even meeting our most basic biological needs, shelter, food, community, rest is probably the biggest one. It's all become a constant struggle. None of how.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that first world people have trouble getting? Wait, let me see if I understand this correct.
World refuse to address when they are trying to fix the declining birth rate. Most people today are completely cut off from the natural world, from the stability and the rhythms that we are biologically hardwired to live by. Even meeting our most basic biological needs, shelter, food, community, rest, as probably
Shelter, food, community. Outside of community, those things are very easy to obtain here in the US relative to the rest of the world. I know that things are getting bad now, but generally speaking, still compared to anywhere else in the world, those things are relatively easy to get, you know. But then there's shelter, and then there's shelter. There's shelter, then there's shelter. You know, like there's shelter, and then there is the lifestyle of the rich and sheltered. Let's face it, Americans would rather have a 4-bedroom house with 2 kids than 4 kids in a 2-bedroom house.
the biggest one. It's all become a constant struggle. None of how we've set up modern society is normal, let alone healthy. We've built up all of these systems that keep us hustling and isolated and stressed out, and then we wonder why people aren't bringing more kids into it. People often say that childless people are selfish, but is it not more selfish to bring a kid into all of this regardless, just because you want one? Even if
Okay, that's really just a justification. Like, oh no, I'm not doing it because, this is such a terrible planet. Then why are you here? Don't Dr. Kevorkian have a machine for that? If life is so terrible, then why do you have one?
it's not good for them, how is that not the selfish option? Also, humans are meant to live in tribes and little groups. Parenting was never meant to fall on just 2 people, and more realistically, if we're being honest, on the mother alone. Yet that's how almost all families are structured today. The phrase "it takes a village to raise a child" exists for a reason, because for almost all of human history, it literally did take a village to raise a child. That was the normal thing. The nuclear family, by comparison, is an artificial and extremely recent invention. It wasn't designed because it's better for children or parents. It was designed because it's the most economically efficient. In terms of actual human wealth,
no, it benefits children and parents. That made no sense. So she's basically on this baby bad, give me money thing.
fair, the larger community model has always worked better, and not even grandparents can help look after kids anymore because they're all working until they're 70, 75. We've made one of the most basic human needs, housing,
Isn't Fantastic and Skylar retired in their 40s? Yeah, every now and again you see that, hunchback Walmart greeter who's 85 years old. But no, most people retire.
Completely unachievable. We've turned every free moment into a side hustle, and then government stands.
Okay, somebody says I'm going to address. She don't want money. She don't want kids. Exactly. But whenever, and women do this. In fact, years ago, I seen a prostitute do this, and I'm going to tell that story. It wasn't real life. It was on TV. When they don't want to do something, they still make an egregious demand for that. But really, they just don't want to do it. So I was watching a show. I think it was P's Up, Pros Down. Something like that. One of those HBO specials that highlighted that, the true PIMP lifestyle. And actually, I think that this was from the 304 perspective, this one. But they interviewed one of the girls, and, they asked her how much for the back, how much for that, for that backdoor action. And she said $6,000. And she was saying that simply because she don't want to do it at all, and she know nobody's going to pay $6,000. But now it's on them. Now it's on them. It's like, oh, well, you don't have the money. You're not going to pay, then, that's that. Now, not to say if somebody pulled out 6G, she would do it, but now it's on them. It's, that's what it's about. But no, the truth of the matter is she just don't want to have any.
And they're baffled, asking, why won't you breed? But here's like the very obvious truth. You can't cut people off from stability and support and community and having rest and free time and then expect them to want kids. And here's the part that billionaires and governments who harp on about the declining birth rate will never say out loud. They don't actually care about families. They literally only care about keeping the labor machine running. Babies aren't seen as like future sons and daughters. They're seen as future workers and future taxpayers, future consumers. Put simply, the wolves are complaining that the sheep are not breeding. Babies are just more fodder in the machine that allows them to enjoy the fruits of everyone else.
Unfortunately, somebody asked me how many children I have. Unfortunately, I don't have any.
Else's labor, while the people providing their lifestyles to them suffer. That's why a lot of the solutions that are being thrown around are just so unbelievably shallow. Baby bonuses, medals, fear-mongering, slogans, anything except addressing the actual issue and anything except a solution that would actually work. Raise wages, reduce work hours, make life affordable, and make it easy for people to meet their own basic needs.
So there's her list of demands. Now, it's not like if you do these things, they're going to start having kids, because she's not. Let's go over the list of demands. Hold on.
Lifestyles to them suffer. That's why a lot of the solutions that are being thrown around are just so unbelievably shallow. Baby bonuses, medals, fear-mongering, slogans, anything except addressing the actual issue and anything except a solution that would actually work. Raise wages, reduce work.
Okay. So your boss comes along and say, hey, we're going to cut your hours in half and we're going to double your pay. And what are you going to do after that? Are you going to say, ooh, I'm going to get some babies? Like, ooh, babies! Or are you going to continue to swipe left on Tinder? Like, come on now. More pay, less work. Like, that doesn't make more babies. If anything, that's making less. We're just going to have more boss bees. And if you're getting paid more, why would you really have like less of incentive because when you're on maternity leave and you're taking time off work because of the child and stuff, that's more money lost.
Hours, make life affordable and make it easy for people to meet their own basic needs. That's it. But of course, that would mean redistributing a very small amount of power and resources, and that's something that people on top are never going to consider. The wealth gap between the top and the bottom, by the way, is bigger now than it was in the French Revolution. Just a thought. Just a thought. But they love to fearmonger about the declining birth rate as if it's like a pressing issue that the average person needs to solve. But it's not our problem, it's their problem. The only reason it matters to them is because fewer births means fewer workers. That's why there's been such a frantic push towards like AI and robotics, by the way. They're already prepping for a future where there aren't enough people to exploit anymore. Because here's the truth that all of us should know by now is that workers create value, not billionaires. You could remove every single
Workers create value. Yes, you want workers to create less value. Okay.
billionaire off the planet tomorrow and absolutely nothing would happen. The world would keep turning. But remove even 20% of the workforce and the entire system collapses overnight. So when governments and corporations and billionaires want to wring their hands about the
Well, removing 20% of the workforce, but if workers are working 20% less, doesn't that also collapse everything? Oh,
declining birth rate, they want us to feel like it is a societal failure. But really all it is their economic model cracking under its own weight. At the end of the day, declining birth rates aren't some like mysterious cultural collapse. They are a direct. People aren't avoiding kids because they suddenly hate families or they just suddenly.
Yeah, because society is so livable in Niger. They have so few work hours and so high and such high pay in Democratic Republic of Congo, in Angola, in Somalia. Yeah, the reason why they have so many kids is because of the high wages and low hours.
Don't like babies anymore. They're avoiding them because the math and the reality just doesn't add up. Declining birth rates are not the problem, they are the symptom, and that's important to remember. They're holding up a mirror to governments who have built societies where people don't feel safe or stable enough to have families. If leaders really wanted more babies, they don't need bonuses, they need to build a society that's worth bringing a child into. Should be common sense, I fear.
Yeah, because it's worth bringing a child into Somalia.
Anyway, if you've watched it this far, give this video a like, give it a comment, subscribe if you want to. This video might, I'm just realizing, ruffle a few feathers, so let me know where you stand on this.
So this is some of her other stuff. Why they fall in love with AI girlfriends? Because real women are like you. Oh, wait. The dark truth about passport bros. Women aren't the problem. Holy crap. So we see what she's on. We see what she's on, and it's not. Yeah, exactly. All right. Basically what passport bros are doing is like, okay, y'all don't want to have babies, let's go to AR. No, I want you to stay here and so we can get higher wages for babies that we won't have. It's funny because they approach everything the same way, in this passive aggressive way, meaning that will imply strongly that if you do, doesn't mean I actually have to do that. That just means that I'm strongly implying if you do this, then maybe I'll do that. No, I don't actually have to do that, but I might. So if you give us more money and less pay and still I'll be a career-driven boss bee, then maybe there could be a child in it for you. Who knows? Y'all see how that works? Y'all see the inner workings of their brain? All right, I'm going to read some comments. Peace to you. Peace to you, D. Scott. Thanks for being a channel member. Dominic, let's see. How many men want kids? Okay, I'll even answer that because you are a channel member. How many men want kids? Okay. All right. According to Pew Research Center survey, 57% of young men ages 18 to 34 say they want children, compared to 45% of young women, meaning that more men want children than women want children. Get it? Got it? Good. In fact, half of these young women don't even want children. Now, of this 57%, of course, that's going to increase later in life. There are men who, after 35, want children. Now, women, there are some who, after 35, are going to want to have children, but it's going to be extremely difficult at that point. I just don't want kids. It's already hard enough to save money with just me. Understandable. I do. Kids are hard work. Work is hard work. I agree. I mean, if you feel that's not worth having. Plus, you brought up a good point. What if your child is born with disabilities? They will suffer and blame you for birthing them. I never known like a person who was born with disability to be on some fuck you mom stuff. And we have people like that. Sometimes you see them tearing tickets at the movie theater or bagging groceries or stuff. They actually seem happier than others because perhaps they have like an extraordinarily different bar of expectations in life, but or perhaps they're at a job of service. But nevertheless, they don't seem to be like on some F you mom type stuff. How dare you birth me? How do you make women give their bodies this way? Wait, how do you make women give their bodies this way for the love of the game? Okay, I don't know what you mean when you say the love of the game, but um, I will say this. I'm not saying that you should make them do anything. However, you shouldn't incentivize them to do certain things also. For so long, they have been incentivized to become producer consumers for the same reasons that she talked about. And that is for the, labor market to have more people making stuff and buying stuff. And what society has subsequently done was they convinced them that being a producer consumer is better than being a wife mother. They highlight all of the positives of being producers consumers and not the negatives, and they highlight all the negatives of parenthood and not the positives. If you don't believe me, turn on your TV. You see more mimosas than motherhood. You see more girls trips than family vacations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Costa Rica discovered that if you lowered the income inequality in their country, that people were much happier. If you lowered the income inequality, you mean like the difference between the rich and the poor? The difference? Elaborate on that for me. All right, I touched on that already. Oh, you're talking about between individuals. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I would assume that if you're a baker, a cake maker, and you make better cakes than the next baker, then there's going to be income inequality if you make the best cakes, right? So I don't even know how that. I mean, do somebody just come along with rifles and say, "Hey, you gotta have to give up some of that cheese to a person whose cakes isn't as good," even though you're serving 100 customers a day and he's serving 5. You got to make the same amount as the person who makes 5 cakes or serving 5 cakes a day. Like, what's going on with that? Mothers don't do everything when it comes to child rearing. Well, no, I mean, they all, once again, highlighting the negatives of motherhood. When you're playing for money, that's what they're going to do. Like, I'm a mother. That's why they make up terms like slaving over a hot stove. You mean cooking? You know, so mothers are victims. They are choosing to be that. They're not choosing to be that anymore. Mental, yeah, I know. This, once again, this is a plea. This is a plea to get, as she stated, lower wages, more money. One thing I paid attention to is that many mothers love being parents because of the attention and adoration they get for it. Yep. Pets die before, yeah. Okay. People think their natural environment involves housing, plumbing, but not work. Exactly. Like nothing about modern human habitat is natural. All right, let's see. Covered that. This woman isn't a prostitute. Yeah, I know. That's what makes an analogy. Just like if I was to say, that's like the pot calling the kettle black. It doesn't mean that I'm saying that the person is actually a pot or a kettle. Men keep raising their daughters to be men, creating nuclear weapons. Well, yeah, I mean, they initially started doing that to protect their daughters against nefarious men, so they won't have to be desperate, and they'll have some negotiation leverage. However, now it's just out of control. How many children do you have? Why not? It's one of the things that I attempted to do, and that is secure a healthy family. And I have failed at thus far. Good question. Make it easy. I don't understand where you're going with this. A grown child, baby bonus. Oh, okay. I don't understand what you're saying. You gotta, I lost the context. All right, here's something. Why do you all without wombs complain about something that you can never and will never? Airplane emoji able to do. How come people without penises complain about anal? You're stupid. Yeah, I'm not going to dignify that with a response. First of all, I don't entirely understand it. But secondly, it's like you understand that the only way humans can survive is if the women consent to continue to give birth to humans. And y'all are refusing to do that, and you're wondering why you're complaining because we don't have the tools. Yeah, be smarter. Jesus. All right. The societies that are having children keep women subjugated. Nobody can argue that. I can. I'd say that that the women are poor. I wouldn't call that subjugation. So, I mean, elaborate on that. Like, it seems like these are societies where we both had to leave our schools after the 6th grade to help support the family. So we both started working, the tea fields, and then we met on the tea fields, had babies, and they worked the tea fields too. Where's the subjugation? Like, they're no more subjugated than the men. It's weird. For some reason, we have the fantasy of the pregnant boss batch in the West. I've never had that fantasy ever. I'm going to go to Pornhub to see how many people have that fantasy. Give me a moment. Because I think that's really a you thing. Let's see. Very G and a pregnant boss. Here. Let's see. Okay, so when I typed it up, some videos came up. It's not what you expected, but this is like the closest thing that they could find to it, to such a bizarre fantasy in a place where there are many bizarre fantasies. The first one that came up is my stepbrother's pregnant cuckold wife, Danner Mendez, Amber Prada. Okay, so yeah. Boss B gets effed when she freezes in time in the office. Okay, she's not pregnant. But yeah, let's see. Um, this isn't in English. My B secretary seduces me and F's me, so I didn't work. Yeah, that's a you thing. This isn't like some male patriarchy that we are using to impregnate boss bees. Ah, crap. A child won't stay a child forever. The society needs to ready for all their stages: baby, kid, teen, adult, elderly. To be fair, does that woman look like she wants to be a boss bee? I don't know. I don't. She don't look like she wants to work to be one. No. 45% of women wants kids. There should be a parenthesis after that S, or around the S and kids, because they might just want a kid. And yes, it is soft genocide. If 45% of women have, a kid, then each generation would be reduced by 55%. So yes, this is, like, once again, this is an extinction level problem. "45% of women wanting to have kids is the equivalent to having Thanos come and snapping his finger every 20 years. Once again, this problem is the equivalent to having Thanos come and snap his fingers every 20 years. But hey, mimosas, avocado toast, bubble tea. Okay. Could it be argued more women want more women want no kids because they do more of the child raising once the child is born? Don't care. You don't feel like they're worth the effort. Yes, keeping humanity going takes a lot of hard work. I want a latte. Yeah. Okay. It wasn't until 1920s that the global birth rate reached 1 billion, and in only 105 years later, the global birth rate is 8 billion. Y'all didn't know that it's totally manufactured. What's totally manufactured? Only women die in childbirthing, so easy for you meant to say the, yeah, it is. It's very easy. It's very easy for us to say that. You're right. So you should do the same thing and take the same risk that your mother took for you. But she's a better woman than you. And your daughter will be, oh, not existing. Okay. And almost all the work when pregnant. Okay. So how much work do men do? Like the other, like 70 to 120 years of side of that 9 months. I see what they mean by subjugation. Basically, there is no feminism or less feminism. Exactly. A world without feminism is subjugation to women. If men truly want children in the numbers you stated, there are many foster children waiting to be adopted. Go get some children. They don't have to. What is it with you and airplane emojis? They don't have to be biological. Says you. Says you. There's also many fat broads with stepkids looking for stepdads. I like avocado toast. No, you don't. Nobody likes avocado toast except for these, prestigious, pretentious bitches. I met quite a few childless women that are actively trying to have a child in their 40s. I know. See, that's because it's shifted priorities. The thing you do first is the thing that you give greater priority to. Kind of like a kid without restraint will eat cake or eat his dessert before he eats dinner, because that is what he gives priority to. I was no different as a child myself. But no, if you're a woman and you wait until you're 40, like, oh, I'm trying to have a kid now. What the hell? What were you doing in the other 22 years of adulthood? Now, I want y'all to take a look at my thumbnail. Here, I'll bring it up. I want y'all to take a look at my thumbnail, because this is the actuality. Like, look at where your grandma and how many kids she had and stuff like that at 40, and then look at modern women. Think about that for a second. Just think about it. There is a reason for this. Hold on. Hit the like button, people. There you go. 40 years old, 1975. You have the wife, husband. You have the 3 children. And then you have the 3 grandchildren. And then here, you have the chick on her phone. This is the state of family now. What were you doing when she was giving birth to her oldest child? Oh, I'm pointing to the wrong thing. What were you doing when she was giving birth to her oldest child? You was on the damn phone. What were you doing? What were you doing when she was giving birth to her oldest grandkid? Avocado toast, boba tea, DoorDash, Amazon. Yep. Women don't like that they did before in childbirth. Yes, there is a risk, but it's not the 1940s, or excuse me, it's not the 1400s. I know. I mean, there's a risk in everything. Once again, they're just making excuses for why they're not doing what um, what they don't want to do. That way, they can say that, oh, I am a good, loving, nurturing person. I'm a decent human being that want to have kids. I'm just afraid of death. The fuck up. I must deal with a lot of pretentious bitches. Yeah, yeah, they like avocado toast. Listen. Anybody who uses the word brunch is a pretentious bitch. That is, it's not a real meal. Shut the fuck up. Stop saying brunch. Stop saying brunch. Stop saying brunch. The fuck is wrong with people? That's one of the dumbest words I ever heard. Yes, there's words that people say that let me know exactly the type of person they are. And brunch is one of them. Game changer, you failed at creating your own children. Yes, I have. I failed at getting into Harvard. Like there's a lot of things that I failed at that I attempted to do and failed at. Now, unlike getting into Harvard, it's something I can still do. I'm certain of this every time I bust a healthy nut. However, yeah, thus far I have. Not willing to adopt any. I just don't want to. Why are you complaining again? It's not necessarily a complaint. It's an observation of where society is going. Moving on. Was grandma considering the future of the planet when she was having those kids? No. See, you don't really have to. This is what you're naturally prone to do. You don't really have to step outside and think about it, like, you know, how this is going to affect the planet. You're just like, listen, I want kids. I love kids because, you know, yeah. But no, I doubt back then they were saying, you know, like I must keep the population going or anything like that. I guess people have other stuff to do. Men have less stuff to do now than they did back then. You know, we're not pulling like 80-hour shifts at a plant or something like that. You know, like the chick who did the last video. I have better things to do. Yeah, like make YouTube videos. Yeah, okay. Because life is so terrible for you. Notice that even the ones saying go adopt or not adopting or get pets. I mean, you're not increasing the population by adopting it. You're just nurturing the existing population. Brunch is for people who don't want to go out at night. Brunch is for people who just want to say that they did something and sound interesting. So you ate food. No, I ate brunch. You see, there's no story when you eat breakfast or lunch or dinner. It don't sound all hoity-toity when you say that. Like, you know, like, yeah, if somebody say, what did you do this weekend? You know, you don't say, you know, oh, I ate lunch. But you do say, I ate brunch. Mark my word, y'all gonna see this now. Now that I mentioned this, y'all gonna see this. Y'all gonna listen to the people that said brunch, that say brunch, and then you're gonna like scan their personality. And you're gonna know what the fuck I'm talking about. Fucking brunch bitches. All right. At least Mississippi don't have brunch. They got dirt. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, adoption isn't increasing the population. Agreed. Agreed, Andrew. Still easier than having kids. I know. UGC said it right after I wrote it. Brunch involves day drinking and pretending to go clubbing at 2 p.m. Yeah, exactly. Brunch is for those that want to get work in the middle of the day. Mimosa drinking. Yep. I don't even know what brunch is. I never did the shit. Actually, I did do it. I did do it once. I was helping my friend move, and he had to stop and take his wife out for brunch because he promised to do so. I was like, look, this bitch, it, what the fuck? What the fuck? Don't you see men are work? We actually doing stuff. It's crap like that. And then what was it? It was like French toast with hella fruit on it. Like the menu, they had like a whole brunch menu. It was oh gosh. I can't believe I actually ate that shit. I hope you're being sarcastic. Only cultured people eat brunch, and I'm not cultured. Fuck that. I just meet up with their drunk asses afterwards. Exactly. Dealing with such foolishness. I swear. Yeah, I'm going to brunch. I went to brunch. We had brunch today. So much foolishness. All right, let me bring up the next video. And the chick I'm about to show, she looked like brunch. I haven't seen this one either. Or I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen part of it, but let me see. Where did I put that under? Watch later. Here we go. Here we go. Give me a second. Somebody said party at night like normal people. It's not even a party. It's not a fucking party. It's a food. It's meal. Shut the God. Brunch people get on my damn nerves. They're up there with Mississippi people. Like it's but society has trained them that brunch is more important than babies, and they fell for it. I remember the first time I seen a bitch take a picture of her food, and I thought it was a one-off. I thought that okay, that chick is crazy. But now, like when society, that's like a normal society thing to do. I'm like, oh, this is madness. The world is going into complete and total madness.
I'm your host, Christina, and I help people stop shrinking and start living. I don't know about you, or maybe it's just my algorithm, but online and offline, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about the population decline. Greece has got it pretty bad at the moment. It's hit the US, Japan.
She was a crush candidate at one point. I think it's her. It was a young British chick who was a crush candidate for a bit, but I think it was her because she like a doctor and stuff.
Hannah's had it for
but
a long time
and I like
now, and
glasses.
it's been hitting the UK too. I'm not surprised at all. Men and women don't talk to each other. Everyone hates dating apps. Everyone hates dating, period. The divorce rate is 50%. It's so expensive to raise a child. Childcare alone could be literally your whole entire month's salary. So each time I see a headline on this, I'm like, I'm not surprised at all. Even if you do have a stable job in the UK, I'm a doctor. I know many of my friends are doctors. Many of us face unemployment in the next few years. I'm not exaggerating. I'm being so genuinely serious. What a great way to start off the video. What a time to be alive. Sorry.
Okay, I forget why I took her off my crush list, but it was something she said on a previous video.
Sorry to start the video on such a negative note. For years and years, I've always heard people say, oh, there's no right time to have kids. You'll just know, it'll feel right. There's no right time. You'll never be ready. And maybe that is the case. I would love it if there are parents watching. Like, please let me know in the comments below. Is that genuinely the case? Like, you'll never feel ready. You just kind of have to have them. Because back in the day, when the economy wasn't, looking like this, and you could actually have kids in your early 20s, there was no ginormous fear of the biological clock. You weren't on a time crunch to have a kid by 30 or have a kid by 35 because you could actually be stable and married by 30. Like, to a lot of us today, that seems like, quite rare and not as
It is
common.
quite rare.
But back in the day, that wasn't really a thing. I remember speaking to my mum about this. She had me at my age. Like, she was 23 when she had me, and so like now I'm 24, so I would have been a 1-year-old at my age now, and I can't even imagine that. Like, when she told me that, I was like, oh my.
Your mom's not a doctor. Your mom's not a doctor. Like, pick your struggle. Now, I don't know for certain that your mom's not a doctor, but I'm pretty damn certain that your mom is not a doctor. Maybe your dad is, and things will still play out like that. But I doubt she was pregnant with you in medical school. So that's what's happening there. A shift in priority has happened.
Gosh, imagine me being a mum with a 1-year-old. Like, that is wild. And now, me personally, I'm actually not afraid of the biological clock. It's just my personal opinion. Like, I know people tend to kind of fixate on the fertility side of things, and that is an issue. After 40, it does dip, but it's actually genuinely, for me, it's like after 40, there are just risks involved. Like,
somebody brings up a point. I'm going to address this. And I don't know her well enough to know her family history, but maybe not. But it says she doesn't even come from this Western past she speaks of. Her family lived in huts, most likely. Well, I don't think that they lived in huts, but if that's your way of saying that they are likely immigrants from third world, there is that possibility because England don't really have like, even though they did participate in the slave trade, it was for a significantly shorter period of time. And I think that most of the descendants just, miscegenized into the local population or something. Who knows? But they don't have like an existing community of descendants of British slaves. So most Black Brits are from the Caribbean or Africa, are the descendants of such immigrants. How many generations her family's been here, I don't know, but yeah, there is a possibility that her parents are of a completely different culture, or her grandparents are of a completely different culture, which some of it leaked into the children and so on and so forth. But you're right, they're not. She's not like a Brit whose family's been in Britain for 100 years plus. So she is going to be her mother at least is going to be at least culturally different. Nevertheless, there is a strong point there.
there are just so many risks of having a child at that age. I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I've just seen things at work, on my placements. Like, with that being said, knowing the risks, I'm actually not afraid of it. I just feel like, for me, everything in life will happen when it needs to. If I'm lucky enough to find the right partner, be stable enough to feel ready enough to have a kid, at 31, at 32, at 35, at 36, like I'll just have a kid. But say I miss the boat, like I just miss the boat, don't I? I've never been opposed to adoption as well. So I think that's why I don't have a fear of the biological clock. Like I don't feel like I'm in a rush to kind of.
You don't feel like you're in a rush because you're 24. You don't feel like you're in a rush because you're 24. That's why. And it's this young woman's thinking which really affects the population rate. Oh, I'm not in a rush. I have like 10 years to go. It's like, yeah, nobody's in a rush. I mean, you was in a rush to get out of medical school. Like a doctor at 24 is impressive. Now, I want to remind you that in England, universities are 3 years, not 4. And that's because they get rid of all the extra fluff that we have to take, like humanities. And, if it's not really directly related to your major, you don't have to take it there in England, which is smart. Yeah, it is. But nevertheless, it's still impressive. Very much so. And that's because you were in a rush. You gave this thing that you wanted top priority in your life. And that is your PhD and your white coat. You gave that top priority and you achieved it. You're not going to have children because you're not giving it top priority. And you're not going to.
Like have kids by a certain time. I also feel like maybe you guys can relate as well. I also don't feel in a rush to have kids because there's no real incentive to start a family. What I mean by that is there's an incentive to get a job. You literally need a roof.
Family should be its own incentive, which really says something about them. Keep in mind, she's 24, fertile. I'm pretty sure she's full of eggs and stuff, full of high IQ eggs. So, it would be, put it like this. Society needs her to have kids more than it needs her to be a doctor. And in a very real way, society wants her to have kids more than it wants her to be a doctor. But it's really about what she wants.
Over your head, and you literally need a place to stay. You literally need to pay the bills. And also, if you're lucky enough.
Okay, somebody said something. Holy crap. Y'all want more dumb people via dumb children, via dumb mothers, because mothers shouldn't educate per you all. Why do you keep putting airplanes nothing? Okay. Education is not a determinant of intelligence. It's not. This woman here, if she didn't become a doctor, would she be dumb? You see how that works? No, you don't, because you're dumb. Education or not. In fact, if you go get an education to not be dumb, then you're dumb. Holy crap. This is to all the not educated brothers who are listening. And then is a person dumb until they actually become educated? Like, they're killing it in complicated classes in university, but until they get that piece of paper, they're dumb. So no, you don't want them to be dumb, because the dumb thing to do is to not have kids while you are able to do so. If she started having kids at the same age her mama did, at 23, then by the time she is 41, 42, those kids will start to be an adult. And guess what? You can still become a doctor. I can become one right now. Ah, didn't you try to go to Howard for an education, higher intelligence? Education slash higher intelligence. Those two things are not synonymous. Those are not synonymous. Or nah. First of all, no, I didn't try to go to Howard. I didn't want to leave California for education. When I visited friends and family at Howard, I'm glad I didn't because it's too cold. Now, do I sometimes regret not going to a HBCU for greater, longer connections with people in my field that look like me? Absolutely. But no, Howard was not on my wish list of universities. I didn't apply.
To find a job that you really love, you're passionate about, it brings a lot of emotional fulfillment as well. However, with kids and with a family, emotional fulfillment is kind of way up there on the list of having a tight knit family with amazing support and just, you know, fun things you do. That would bring you so much fulfillment. Besides that, though, I feel like you're fed a lot more drawbacks to having a family. It slows you down in your career as a woman. You're 9 months out of the game and you maybe aren't skilled up as you were before.
Yes. So now I'm starting to see why she's no longer a crush. Yes. Bringing life into the world, into the universe, really slows down my stride. It really took me off my stride. That's what she says when she looks a baby in the face. Like, wow, you really took me off my stride.
There's the fears of how it will affect you physically and your body changes and your hormone changes and your health changes. Or I don't know, your friendship dynamics changing. You're a mum now and no one else is. Or, you know, you only talk about your kids. You never talk about fun stuff anymore. It's tough because in society, there's so many role models to give you so much information and help you strive for future career progression and help you be ambitious about your career. But there's absolutely no incentive I see in my own life to like start a family. Like that's not a priority that I see being fed.
How selfish could you be to think this way? And once again, outside of the 45% that want kids, this is how most modern women feel. This is how 55% of modern women feel. They don't see the child as a reward at all.
Do currently have like a really tight knit close family. I have multiple group chats with my family. There's like the cousins one, then there's the main one, then there's just me and my mum and my mum's partner one. Like I'm really close with my family. Family is super important to me and it hasn't always been the case. We've been working to make ourselves more tight knit over the years and I'm really glad that we are quite close now. But say you're someone who grows up in a family where actually you're a bit more distant, you and your mum and your dad and your sibling, you kind of all just do your own different thing. You never have dinner together. You don't really catch up about how was your day and what have you been up to. When that's the case, like, you know, why would you even be incentivized to start a family? It's almost a distraction, if anything. Like you could just keep grinding on your career. You could just hustle into your 30s, into your 40s. Like you could just put it on the back burner. The incentive to have kids and start a family.
You're a doctor and you said hustle into your 30s and 40s. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 30s and 40s. Yes, I've been hustling for 22 years and now I'm ready for a baby. So, bitch, you got more eggs in your refrigerator than you do in your ovaries at this point. Priorities are all twisted. Now, I wasn't, right? But say I'm one of those, you know, genetically superior beings, like what's his name, Dolph Lundgren or something like that. The guy that played the Russian on Rocky Four. A person who's blessed with both physicality and intellect. He's a genius as well. It's like 6'6", and and all the other genetic attributes that made his career what it was. And in addition to that, he's a genius. Guess what? He's still a genius, but he's not in the physical condition that he was when he played on Rocky 4. So if he had to turn down Rocky 4 so he can go and do what geniuses do, then he would have missed an opportunity. You see where I'm going with this? Like you still would have the intellect to be a doctor and to, climb the corporate ladder, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when you're my age, but you won't have the ability to have kids. So why are you putting that thing on the back burner? If I was one of the people that can play football and get a PhD, then guess what? I am going to pursue my football career first because I know that there's a time clock on that. There is a time clock on your fertility. And then there's always this assumption, and maybe it's because, once again, she's 24, and it may seem like that her mating opportunities are going to be the same at 44 that they are now. Not just her mating opportunities, her, serious relationship. I want you to have my baby opportunities is going to be the same.
Is for amazing emotional support and emotional fulfillment, but that's not often what you're sold. Like, the image of family can be sold as broken sometimes. 50% of marriages end in divorce. Kids are annoying, they smell and they vomit and they mess up the car. Like, it really depends on who you hang around and what your circle is, but there are no...
It's not the circle, it's society. Society is really downplaying kids. I was watching a YouTube video, and they were talking about the cousin Oliver method. I don't know if there was like a cousin Oliver syndrome or a cousin Oliver method. Cousin Oliver. So what a cousin Oliver is, it comes from the TV series, and I learned this from watching the show. It comes from the TV series The Brady Bunch. After things get a little stale on the show, they bring in a cousin Oliver. And that is a random, young, cute kid that just comes out of nowhere. Maybe the mother on the show just has a baby, and then after the first season, that baby becomes 4 years old out of nowhere, or what have you. Like Raven Simone on the Cosby Show would be an example of that. Rudy started to get older, and they decided to, reintroduce youth. So they brought in Raven Simone. They did the same thing with a character called 3J on Family Matters. They did the same thing with Nikki and Alice on Full House. They do it all the time. I can't count the number of, when they brought that up and they told me what it was, like I couldn't not see how many cousin Olivers there were. Janet Jackson was a cousin Oliver on Good Times. Like Michael started to get older, and then all of a sudden this 9-year-old just comes on the show. And then when she started getting older, Kim Fields started coming on the show. So they used to, and my point is that they understood that people like kids. So if you bring kids, if you bring kids on the show, more people will watch it because everybody loves kids. You don't see that anymore, and that's because they are either changing the way society feels about children, or the way society feels about children is changing, and they're just adapting to that change. It's one of those, is art imitating life, or is life imitating art type thing. Yeah, it is what it is. By the way, Leonardo DiCaprio is probably the most successful cousin Oliver ever. He was he came out of nowhere on a show called Growing Pains. And he was like a new youngest son that just came out of nowhere. And then after he left, they brought in like another daughter, little blonde-headed girl that, once again, First one episode, she was a newborn, and then the next episode, everybody else was the same age, but she was like 5 years old. So it happens. Anyway,
role models often for families, unless you come from a really positive one, and that's kind of why I think a lot of fatherhood, I think we're just prioritizing stability. I do not even have to go into detail about the state of the economy for you guys to know what I'm talking about. Something I've noticed recently as well is I feel like
I don't. But so what I am gathering is that what's going on here is going on there.
family and parenthood, motherhood is almost becoming a bit political nowadays. On Twitter, possibly the worst platform for politics. It's so divisive on there. It's literally terrible. On Twitter, I've seen a lot of people talk about how, oh, when you look at how Gen Z men and women rank success based on your political views, you know, the right-leaning and the left-leaning. Right-wing leaning Gen Z voters tend to prioritize having children as, you know, a marker of success versus left-leaning people who voted for Kamala. They tend to rank careers and jobs as a marker of success. And this is almost being pushed as like...
I can't believe I actually ever considered her as a crush. It's not that I dislike the British accent, but every now and again they say a word that pissed me off. Like rubbish. Fuck you. Fuck you, you tea drinking bastards. Fuck you and the rubbish. Fuck you and toffee. Just fuck you. Every now and again they say a word that pisses me the fuck off. And there she said it, Kamala. Yeah, it was the glasses.
Negative thing. Oh, women nowadays are the reason of the downfall of the modern family. Women aren't prioritizing family anymore. Women are prioritizing their career, as if this is a bad thing.
It is a bad thing. It ends humanity. That's a bad thing. If I find out that the dinosaurs died because the bitches didn't want to lay eggs, it's their fault. Jesus. My head hurts. It's not a bad thing. No, for you. It's a bad thing for the rest of humanity. Holy crap.
I feel like this is the decision we're being forced to make out of a lack of choice. For example, I see when you have children, I almost see your life as becoming slightly less agile. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like you physically couldn't just up and move city tomorrow. Even if, say, you needed to up and move for a career opportunity, you've been offered a job that pays you, 50% more in your salary, but it's on the other side of the country, and your two kids are in school, and your partner has a stable job in a certain, company locally. It just seems quite hard to like just be agile and move things around in your life as in if you need to. So I personally don't see it as a negative thing to see this table.
I don't want to have kids because I might be offered a 50% pay increase on the other side of the country. So no kids for me. I'm just going to walk around barren because there might be a possibility of career advancement elsewhere. Oh, and by the way, I won't have a boyfriend or husband either because this is the same problem. There might be a potential career advancement out there for me. By that logic, you should have kids because you might need some organs. You dizzy. Some smart people are just stupid.
For example, where on the left-leaning side, most people actually rank having a job or career you find fulfilling as a marker of success, because over the grand span of your lifetime, most of your waking hours will be spent at work. So it makes sense for me that like you find that fulfilling. That does seem like a marker of success. Something I have seen a lot recently is people that do tend to lean on the right side of the political spectrum have been pushing family a lot recently. I've seen a lot of people push this like, oh, men are happier when they're married, or, the best thing that a young man can do for himself is get married. And I find this so interesting.
Well, they're pushing it on the man's side. They're not pushing it on you, which is where the problem is. Because there are plenty of men who want to have children with you, you just don't want to have them. Because you feel it'll set your career back 9 months. So they're pushing it, but they're pushing it to the wrong group of people. They're pushing family on the people who are more prone to want families.
It doesn't surprise me that all the statistics I've seen around men are happier when they're married, or married men are richer men, because the longest study Cambridge ever did on literally any topic ever, their longest study showed that actually the number one marker for happiness and well-being in your life is the quality of your relationships. If you're a person with close-knit, deep friendships, relationships, marriages,
there is no greater quality connection than between a parent and child, and vice versa. So she's one of these waiting to exhale slow motion hug bitches. Like, as long as I have my sisters, then I don't need a man or kids, because every New Year's we get together and we slow motion hug, and there comes a time when you excel, sell. Because we do that, we don't need family connection.
Acquaintances, you are going to be a happier, more fulfilled person. So it makes a lot of sense to me that a married man would be a happier man than a single man. Even the case for women, like I'm sure, a married woman with close-knit relationships is a happier woman than a single woman. However, I think it skews more on the male side, because in the modern day, men do tend to be lonelier. Like there is a
Men are hornier. Once again, if you could find 2 lonely men, then you'll find 2 best friends. Once again, if you find 2 lonely men, you will find 2 best friends. But you don't find 2 lonely men, or 2 lonely men can't find each other because they're not actually lonely. If a dude, if my neighbor, just came knocking at my door one day and said, "Hey, I noticed you mowing your lawn. Well, let's hang out sometime." I look at him like, that's I'm good. You can't have a society where a large population is lonely without the people just naturally doing something about it, is what I'm saying. Now, though many men are alone, doesn't necessarily mean that they're lonely, because they don't have the same need for connection that women have. Now, they're horny. They are undersexed. That's something that's undeniable. But not lonely, because men value sex, women value attention. So women get lonely a lot easier than men. The Romans, fun fact, the Romans, in breaking a female slave, they didn't actually use the whip per se, or really, not much at all. What they used was loneliness. They put her away, isolated her, and about 3 to 6 months later, she's on some Yes Master stuff. That's how they broke her. Now, they didn't use that on the men. The men, it was more of, you're gonna fight in this gladiator arena or die. Hold on right quick. So with men, they use the whip, they use the sword, they use fire, they use you watching another man get his dick cut off and then crucified to get your ass in line. They use the cross. So yeah, which really shows that men and women view solidarity, or excuse me, solitude, a lot different, a lot different. But the people who are doing these studies are projecting women personalities on to men.
Loneliness epidemic, but there's an even more serious epidemic when it comes to men. This alone is something I could talk about for a very long time, because I almost think that women tend to find it slightly easier to have deeper connections. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure men have friendships too,
Because they want it more.
but when you're a woman, you are blessed with the privilege that opening up doesn't really have as much shame attached to it. When you're a guy and you're opening up, there is a huge stigma around that. And when people try and make marriage,
Well, that's because to show neediness for attention is a sign of weakness, and it's a sign of weakness because it's looked at as unmasculine. Because once again, we don't need it as much as you do, not by a long shot.
and having children political, like, you know, women are the reason for so many things going wrong. I'm just like, this isn't always by choice. Like, this is, look at the economy, look at the state of dating apps, look at the state of dating period. Divorce is at 50%. People are trying to create this image that, like, oh yeah, marriage is all perfect and married people are happier, married households are better, married men are richer men, but like divorce is at 50%. Like, just because you sign the papers doesn't mean everything is all sunshine and rainbows now.
Well, it is for the women. I mean, you know, y'all are the ones who sign the divorce papers for the smallest bit of, you know, absence of bliss. H&M says there are some men who get called jihad because they enjoy being alone. Listen, you're going to, anything you're doing that doesn't really involve giving women attention, you're going to be seen as jihad. You know, you get together with your boys to play basketball on the weekends, that's going to be seen as jihad. You know, you get together with your boys for bowling on the week, you know, that's going to be seen as jihad. Golf, anything that you do that is not in pursuit of women, read giving them attention, is going to be jihad. If you're alone, you're jihad. If you're with other men, you're jihad. Anything men do that don't involve women is jihad. Not the same for them. Me and my girls, we went on a trip. We got some samosas and, or excuse me, we got some mimosas and we had brunch and it was avocado toast. And then we went to bubble tea and then, yeah. That's straight. Slow motion hugging some bitches in the, you know, in the middle of a fire. Anyway.
Something else I see a lot of people talk about, but I actually don't think is that deep, is I see, you know, people on podcast by 2030, 45% of women are going to be single and childless, and how, you know, we don't prioritize motherhood enough, and, you know, we need more people pushing family as something to aspire to. And I also see people who enjoy this argument almost like weaponizing singlehood, like, you know, women, if you're not careful, you're going to be single with 6 cats in your 40s. And I'm like, being single isn't a threat anymore to women. The only people I see unhappy with the statistic, nearly half of women single by 2030, single.
It's not, because some things that's going on is older women are not warning younger women, because older women see younger women as competition. So they're going to encourage them to take the path that they took. Meaning that, listen, I'm going to tell you all a story, right? Actually, I'm going to augment the story just in case people involved hear it and then they like, oh, that's that dude. But when I was in my 30s, I find myself hanging out with this OG. And this OG had female friends. They were probably in their 50s or so. And they looked good, like good in their 20s. An example of that would be like Halle Berry. You look at Halle Berry. If you didn't see Halle Berry in her 20s and 30s and like all throughout her career, but you've seen her now, you would know that she looked damn good when she was younger. Same is true for Stacey Dash, maybe even Lisa Ray. Like you could kind of look and tell, like, oh, you know who looked like they looked good back in the day? Ruby D. Ruby D looked like she looked damn good back in the day. Really, any woman who played on the movie Eve's Bayou looks like she looked damn good back in the day. So they fell into this category. So when kicking it with them, we exchanged numbers, not for any practical reasons or romantic reasons, but because we were following each other in each other's cars. So fast forward some years later, I called one of them on a wrong number. Actually, no, I think I texted them on a wrong number. And she texted me back, and I remembered who it was from the event. And I was like, oh, no, it's a wrong number. And without knowing who I was, she texted me back a body shot. Like, not a nude, but with a nice form-fitting dress. She had a nice form, once again, for a woman in her 50s. She looked like she definitely had her day. And I was thinking at that point, like, something? When she was in her 20s, she never tried to seduce wrong numbers. She never tried to seduce wrong numbers because she still had it. Just not my type, but I mean, but she definitely was when she was, she definitely was when I was finger painting in kindergarten and she was a grown ass woman. She definitely was then. So they're not going to, she's not going to tell her, she's not going to tell the 20-year-olds, that, hey, if you don't lock somebody down now, when you're my age, you're going to be responding to wrong numbers with seductive pictures. They're not going to tell you that.
And childless. The only people I see unhappy about this are men. Women are very happy being single. Like you'd be shocked if you sat in on the conversations.
Once again, the only thing men are unhappy with is sexlessness. Notice that you didn't address my first Muslim comment. What? Because if something sounds stupid, why would I address it? I've already written you off as half stupid, which means that I'm only seeing half the stuff that you write. Jesus.
Women have behind closed doors. Like women are very happy single. When it comes to like broader happiness in life, like.
Now, see, this is a not stupid thing that I'm going to respond to. It says the only ones that give advice to the younger women are the married ones. And they aren't many of those around. See, her mother gave her advice. I don't know if her mother's married or not. Probably is. And she's the one who gave her advice. She did it like in a somewhat passive aggressive way by saying, hey, when I was your age, I had you. I mean, she could respond with, well, now that I'm my age, I have a PhD in medical license. Just saying.
women have other women. You could be a single woman in your 40s, 50s. Like, you will be happy and emotionally content in your relationships because you have other women to be friends with. Whereas, say you're a guy, I don't feel like that. I don't know if that's the same. Like, I don't know if men genuinely have other solid male friendships to really give that emotional fulfillment.
The process of making.
We don't need emotional fulfillment. We need sexual fulfillment. I'll be right back. We don't need emotional fulfillment. We need sexual fulfillment. Imagine going out on a date with this broad and she's like, oh, poor thing, you're not emotionally fulfilled. Like, yes, I'm not emotionally fulfilled. Now, will you please take your panties off and keep your glasses on? Like, what the fuck?
And sustaining friends is just something that men are really struggling with right now, much more so than women. And I think there's a couple of things going on here. One is we're revealing the extent to which a lot of that work was actually outsourced to women before, right? So if you're in a couple, how often are the social arrangements made by the women? They do a lot of that maintenance, the relationship maintenance, and the men free ride on the women.
We don't need relationships to ease the.
Where do they find these low T niggas from? And they swear that they speak for men. Why is it that guys like him speak for the plurality of men, but dudes like, I don't know, like Mike Tyson or something, don't?
The feeling of loneliness. Like, if we're lonely, we have other friends for that. Whereas I think maybe something that men use as an aid for loneliness is relationships, and that's how maybe it honestly panics them more than it does women. Also, when it comes to going back to work, something I was really surprised to hear about is there's not always much support for getting you skilled back up to your levels that you were before. Like, I was reading some articles about how a woman kind of returned back to work after 9 months. So much had changed in her department, and like, she was just kind of thrown back in, expected to pick things.
I don't know what changes for doctors. I do not know what changes for doctors because I'm not a doctor. So according to her, now a lot of stuff can change very quickly for in my field, in tech. However, do people really change enough for in a 9-month period for doctors to say, okay, you got to up your skill set? Like, do men get like a third ball in 9 months? She take 9 months off work, come back and like, yeah, so now men got 3 nuts and women got 3 tits. Actually, that would be nice. Both of those things would be nice. So we're going to have to get you up to speed on how to deal with this new, this new mutation of 3 nut niggas. Like, what the hell? What changes? Women now have a third titty, which means that when you open up her rib cage, you have to do so around the middle breast. And that is how you do open heart surgery. Oh, and by the way, people now have 2 hearts. What exactly changes so much that a person who learns so quickly that they become a doctor at 24 can't pick up on? You're just making excuses because you don't want to do this shit. And it's not that you don't want to do it because you don't want kids. You don't want to do it because for a woman, having a kid requires that she do the one thing that she was trained not to do her entire life, and that is value men. She don't want to have kids because she don't want to value men. You have to first value men in order to have kids, period. She's been trained all her life to do it on her own, so she don't have to negotiate with men. That changes once kids are on the table. Because now you not only need sperm, you need a father. You have something new to value a man for.
Things up where she left off, and it was quite sad. She was talking about how it really affected her mental health and how she was literally having thoughts of like quitting the job because she felt so out of touch. And it's not something I've ever thought about before. I can't even imagine the stress of feeling, you know, behind at work, having to pick up where you left off 9 months ago, and then also having, you know, a child who has so many needs emotionally, physically, you go from work, which is a very now stressful environment where you're learning from scratch, and then you go home and you're learning from scratch again. Like, I can't even imagine what a whirlwind that is. And I hear people always say, like, you know, it's just the first.
Really? Really? You can't imagine learning 2 things from scratch, you fucking doctor. Well, now we know who can't cook. Get some contacts, bitch. You are a disgrace to glasses. You are making glasses unsexy. You fucking tranny. Oh, damn it. I don't like... what's the best way I could phrase this? I don't like some of the things that Transformers do because it takes away from the sexiness from when women do it. Say you like a certain thing. Say you like those stockings. You like a certain brand of stockings or pantyhose. You like the thigh-high stockings, right? That's what turns you on. Or the CFM boots. That's what turns you on. But once you start seeing a bunch of Transformers wearing that, it becomes less sexy. I like dark rim glasses. Well, it's a good thing hers not dark rim. But once I see enough women like her wear it, it turns me off. Fortunately, that hasn't been the case yet, but still. Somebody say leave trans people alone. I do. Once again, I'm not mad at them for being who they are, but the optics of it does disturb me.
First year, or it's just you know, the first 2 years, it's the newborn stage, and it's the terrible toddler stage, then it's fine. Like, then you pick up. I feel like these are one of the things that
Okay, so somebody said artificial wombs. And then somebody said, where y'all gonna get the eggs from for y'all artificial wombs? Crazy. The world. The world. You think that a woman in a village that is suffering from a drought is going to bleed every month and not sell it? Is that what you're getting at? Huh? Yeah. You think that a woman in the world who, really just any woman in the world, they're just going to throw it away, huh? Women discard eggs every month. If somebody pays them for said eggs, then they will take the money because it was going to throw it away anyway. If somebody, I got a haircut yesterday. If somebody was to say, hey, here's $5 for that hair, I'll say, okay, here you go. By the way, that's where Black women get their hair. So yes, Yes, we would get it from the world.
Again, that pushes you into a corner.
I just had a terrible thought. Before we get back to this chick, y'all help me out with this terrible thought. Press 1 in the chat room if you would buy Leslie Jones' egg, or if you would buy a Rihanna lookalike eggs. Now, let me explain the pros and cons of the Leslie Jones eggs. Leslie Jones seems like, combined with a average to above average man in like muscle tone and height and stuff like that, you probably get like a linebacker out of Leslie Jones eggs. But that's if and only if you have a boy. If you have a daughter, it will be the ugliest bitch in that generation, in the following generation. So you get the Leslie Jones egg, but if you don't have a boy, you know, it's like if you get the Leslie Jones egg, you could have a son that grows into become The Rock. Or you can have a daughter that looks like Flavor Flav. So would you risk that? Or would you take the egg of a Rihanna lookalike, and then on one hand, you know, you'll get like a pretty woman, a pretty daughter, but on the other hand, your son may be on some Jaden Smith shit or some Willow Smith. Which one is the weirdo? But you know, one of those type kids. Oh shit, Willow's not even a dude. Or Willow's not even a fucking dude. This family's all fucked up. Now, of course, if you know you had to choose between Rihanna and Leslie Jones on the bed, there's no contest. But we're talking about, you know, artificial wombs and eggs and shit. So yeah, like if you didn't have to go through the grueling ordeal of fucking Leslie Jones, but you just could get her genetics and you know, like Steph Curry dad your kid until he becomes an athlete, then you know, yeah, that's one thing. So I don't know. Y'all tell me in the chat room. Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
Of not feeling ready or feeling terrified. Now you're backed up in the.
Somebody said they're both weird talking about the Smith kids. Listen, Smith has a third kid, and he had a normal kid by a normal woman. It's Jada Pickett's eggs that fucked them kids up. So that's what's going on with them. He had a normal kid by a normal woman that he should have stayed married to. I'll be honest, I don't know who any of those people are.
Corner, you literally don't want to come out. Like, we're armed with so much information that makes us feel like we're never going to be qualified or ready to have kids, and it pushes off the decision like further and further. And actually, maybe your mind does change. Actually, like, I'd be curious to know from you guys that do have kids, like, does your mind change actually when you meet the right partner? Like, because I'm currently single, I literally don't have a partner, so maybe when I do have a partner, we've been together some time, things are stable, I'm stable in my job, I'm not unemployed, I've not been kicked out of my doctor role because I didn't make the training post. Like, maybe actually then I would feel like, oh, I have stability. And I don't know, like, do you feel ready once you have the right partner with you? Is that what like made you think I can have kids now? Because a big thing I see a lot of women talk about is like the loss of identity. Like, when you have kids, naturally they become your world. And I'm sure that's an exciting thing. Like, I'm sure that's like the most amazing thing, because whenever I'm looking at a baby, honestly, I feel like you could just look at a baby for hours. Like, their eyes are so big, they literally just like they make the weirdest noises and like they smell and they fart and it's just they're just so cute. Like you could actually look at a baby for hours. So I'm not surprised that they become your whole world. You know,
I don't like the way she says fart. I don't like the way she says fart. I don't think that British people should say fart.
there's so much you physically have to do for them. But then the person that you were before, whether it be the hobbies that you had, you know, books you read, all the spare time you had went to you, and then now it's going to this amazing little person. Like it just changes who you are. And I'm sure it's exciting. Like I think about that and I think it's exciting, but like you do lose yourself in away the person that you were before. And I've read about how that can affect friendships. Even like I've read about how women have been part of like social circles where they were really active, really involved, meeting friends all the time, but they become a mum and naturally your priorities change. You don't really want to go out for cocktails.
Y'all heard that, right? Y'all heard that. Here, I'll play it again.
How women have been part of like social circles where they were really active, really involved, meeting friends all the time, but they become a mum and naturally your
Y'all heard that, right? Y'all heard that, right? They can't say shit right. Then they become a mum. They become a mummy.
priorities change. You don't really want to go out for cocktails if you're going to be breastfeeding, or you know, you can't really do the same spontaneous nights out when you have to look after your child in the evening. And
Well, I became a grown man and I can't eat M&Ms every day anymore. What the fuck? It's part of growing up. It's the cycle of life. What is wrong with these bitches? Holy shit. I became a college student and I couldn't play Halo all fucking day anymore. Remember, she's 24. No, she's not 24. She's not 24. She is 70% of 24, which is somewhere like 15, 16. She's not fucking 24. You want to know what 24 is? 24 is her mum at 24. That's what a 24-year-old is. A 24 is like a grown, responsible woman who is focused on family and moving into the next stage in her life. A 24 isn't somebody who's curious about it. Just like a 24-year-old man was a Tuskegee airman shooting down Nazis in World War II. Now a 24-year-old man is a man who is ordering Uber Eats while playing Tuskegee Airman on Xbox. Like, you see how it's different? See how it's different? This is a grown woman. This is a grown woman. Like when you look at like the Claire Huxtables of the day, Claire Huxtable had like 4 kids by the time she was 24. Think about it. Sandra was like in college and Claire was still in her 30s. Did the Tuskegee Airmen have a choice? They had an option. They wanted to do it. Yes. What the fuck? Yes. Yes, they had a choice. They weren't drafted into it.
it's quite sad, but I have seen it affect some friendships. It's not always the case. I'm sure that when you are, you know, a real life mum, you can probably make friends with other mums. You can probably go to those classes or those daycare things.
Holy crap, they even spell it like that. Oh, speaking of which, this is my mom. This is my mom. Hold on. Hello, mom. How you doing, mom? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm doing a show right now. Okay, thank you too. Love you. All right, bye. So that was my mom. All right, let's play some more.
And you can make friends with other mums. I was having a heated debate with my mum about this the other day about how
She
like
keeps
the
saying it.
stats around how many kids are not planned. In the US, I read something like 50% of children unplanned, or was it 50% of pregnancies? In the UK, I've just seen this statistic where it's like a third of births in Britain are unplanned or ambivalent. And whether or not this is a contraception issue or a, oh, you know, we weren't trying, but it's a lovely surprise issue, or whether it's a, I was not planning for this, but I don't really want to end this issue, I don't really know.
British people don't fuck. They don't fuck. They don't have sex drives. From what I understand, they sit around and then they take like a little watch out their pocket and they put it up and they look at it with the monocle and then they say, "Oh, I think today is the day that we're supposed to have sex." And then she's like, "Oh no, dear, that's another fortnight before I'm ovulating again." Like, okay, cheerio, I'll see you then. That's what British people do. They don't fuck. Spanish people, they fuck.
The way I see it is almost everyone I know, bar one person, is absolutely pro-choice. Like everyone I know is very much, you do what works for you. You do what works for you and the future of yourself and the future of this baby, but ultimately do what's right for you. However, all my friends say that. However, sometimes I do think, you know, when you are in that position and say,
all right, somebody said Claire Huxtable had first kid at 28. So if she had the first kid at 28, then that means that when Sandra, who was the kid at Yale when the show started, would be 12 when she's 40, which means that the show would have had to have started when Claire Huxtable was like 46. Like that's the start of the show. I don't see that.
you do have an unplanned pregnancy, is it actually the same attitude? Like sometimes I think maybe the reason why it's nearly a 50% unplanned pregnancy rate or whatever it is, like maybe that's because, you know, lots of people are pro-choice, but sometimes when you are in that position, I think you'd maybe make a different decision, because there's so much more that goes into your decision to have a child than am I ready. It's also like, is my partner ready? Does my partner even want this? Am I financially stable enough? Is my career stable enough? What's even more important than having the child is, are you having the child with the right person? I feel like everyone would ideally love like an equal household, but I'm starting to learn that this is actually a myth. Like the myth of the equal household. I was speaking to someone recently who is pregnant, and I was talking to them about their partner, and I was talking about, like, you know, are you nervous, like, you know, first time mom? And she was like, yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And I was talking about like, oh
wait, she said irregular. She said irregular. Hold on, let me look it up. Dang, y'all be killing me. How old was Claire Huxtable? In season 1. She was 41 years old. She was 41 years old in season 1. So unless Sandra was like 13 in Yale, she had kids well before that. She had Sandra like early. Keep in mind that Cliff and Claire, as the story goes, they were like high school sweethearts, and then they went to Hillman together. Actually, Cliff was a little bit older because he was already in Hillman during Claire's prom, and he didn't get to go to prom, or she didn't get to go to prom because he was busy. So they did like a makeshift prom on the show. So he was in college while she was in high school.
I feel like everyone would ideally love like an equal household, but I'm starting to learn that this is actually a myth. Like the myth of the equal household. I was speaking to someone recently who is pregnant, and I was talking to them about their partner, and I was talking about like, you know, are you nervous? Like, you know, first time mom. And she was like, yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And I was talking about like, oh, you know, don't worry, you've got your partner. Like, I'm sure they'll help out with lots of things. But they were saying like, oh no, he's not going to do anything. Like, he's not going to help me. I'm going to be by myself. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. And I was like, oh, like, that's a shame. You know, that's a shame. And I didn't really know what to say, but
why don't you say the fuck out their business? When she said that she knew that there was a possibility that the father wasn't going to be there, I mean, really, she was nagging her. This bitch. She's annoying me now. Yes, Cliff and Claire were in their mid to late 40s. I just looked it up. Claire Huxtable was approximately 41 years old in the first season of The Cosby Show. What's up? Like, yeah. Season 5, she celebrated her 46th birthday. The episode was called Birthday Blues. Listen, she didn't have Sandra at 28 years old. Let's just start there.
the more I've been looking into it online, the more I'm coming to learn that like the equal household, split the chores, you do this, I do that. It's not always the case, and it's not as easy to create as you'd think. There's been a lot of research into the fact that a lot of women actually take the invisible planning things or remember.
Why was that baby mixed? See, this is something people do. This is something society do.
That a lot of women actually take the
Brits.
invisible workload.
Why is this baby mixed? And it's another, look at this baby hair. Why, when they show the negatives of motherhood, it's got to be the father is something different
Of the household, whether it's like little things like planning things or remembering birthdays or keeping up to date with like shopping and things in the house, discussions with in-laws, like just little things that don't seem like much, and it seems like oh, it'll be fine, but like a lot of the invisible workload does get placed on the women. And when I think about it, it's actually really hard to truly create an equal, truly 50-50 household. I almost don't even think that is possible, because, you know, say you do split up the chores or the bills or the mortgage 50-50 truly, but on a week-to-week basis, priorities and workload around the house does change. Like one week someone might be doing more compared to the other person who does less on one week. And then even say you did want to balance that out and you're like, I've been working so much this week, like it's not fair. Like if you did want to balance that out, even bringing up the conversation, giving a suggestion, you should do this, that even is quite a bit of work in itself to do that regularly over the course of your marriage. Like I don't think that equal is as possible as it seems. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. Like I don't mind putting in more of the work. I like what
I tune out when people start to show that they're non too bright. I start tuning out what they have to say. I didn't know she said remembering birthdays. Like it's a fucking hassle. Oh my gosh, she must be the shittiest doctor in Britain. What the fuck? Like, wouldn't you hate to have to deal with her? Like, what if she had like a stay alive appointment? Like, what if she was the doctor in charge of you not dying? Like, yes, I need you here on November 21st to change the oil in my heart. Like, and she said, oh man, I got to remember shit. I got to remember dates. Like, what the fuck? By the way, I don't think oils or hearts have oil. I don't know because I'm not a doctor. But wherever the fuck can go wrong that you need her to remember a day for, she's not going to remember the shit. You know how my dentist call? Well, why would y'all know how my dentist call? My dentist call on some, I know they do it because they want money, but on some, you know, your last cleaning was 6 months ago type shit. She won't do that because she got to remember dates.
Someone said, I can't remember whether it was a podcast or a book, but I heard someone say, like, you know, a good marriage is actually 100, like you both give 100%. I actually think I prefer that to the thought of an equal household, because I am someone who
is still equal. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. I'm starting to think that the reason why Brits become doctors so young is because they skip like a lot of shit that's necessary. At first I thought they just got rid of the unnecessary shit. But now it seems like they got rid of some necessary shit. Like basic math. If you both are given 100%, then you're both given equal. Because 100 is equal to 100. I prefer both of us given 100% versus, you know, this equal thing. Here, let me go back.
I don't think that equal is as possible as it seems. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. Like, I don't mind putting in more of the work. And like what someone said, I can't remember whether it was a podcast or a book, but I heard someone say, like, you know, a good marriage is actually 100, like you both give 100%. I actually think I prefer that to the thought of an equal household, because I am someone who genuinely just loves to help. Like, even with my friends, I will go above and beyond, or like, I will deliver more. I will drive to their town. Like, I will like really think about a good birthday present. I will stay late. Like, I just will give. Like, I think that's almost my love language. Like, is it giving gifts or just giving? Like, I am a giver. And that's why, going back to what I was saying about like having a child.
Good. Then give me kids and give those kids milk and shit. Milk my babies. What the fuck? I'm a natural giver, which means I pick up the tab for mimosas after. Shut the fuck up. You give my babies milk. Milk my babies. The fuck is wrong with this broad? Holy crap. We got another one. Please put my above comment. I only read half the shit you say. No, super chat it. Super chat it. Give me $2. I love to give.
With the right person. That's even more important, to be honest, to me than like the right time to have the kids, because I know if I end up with a partner who doesn't give as much, that is a recipe for disaster. Like, that literally would not last a very long.
If I end up with a partner that I don't give as much, but I don't mind giving more because I'm a giver, that's my love language, she is not making any sense. Oh my God. Sometimes I just get lost in like the glasses and the PhDs and forget that she's still a woman. What the fuck?
Time at all. It's almost really important for me as a natural giver to find another giver. That way things would work out and things would end up being like 50-50 actually.
That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I'm a giver and I can only be happy with another giver. No. That doesn't make sense. Let's try to play this out. Let's try to play this scenario out in real life. Valentine's Day come along, right? Or whatever the British version of Valentine's Day is. British Valentine's Day come along. And then your significant other gives you a gift. Now, this gift costs $100.85. You give him a gift, and that gift costs $99.99. You don't feel like a giver because his gift was 86 cents more. So you decide to throw a card on top of that gift, which costs $2. Now your gift is worth more. So he decides to throw a ribbon in. And y'all, it's just about who can be the better giver. No, what you need is me and my penis, where you give me a blowjob and I don't give you shit. Therefore, you fulfill your need to give me shit. That's what you need. You're stupid. And and I have my need fulfilled of receiving shit. I like receiving shit.
Because we both give 100%. I was reading a very sad Reddit post a while back when I was planning this video about a woman who was almost like regretting having kids because how much it took her back in her career. And it was so eye-opening to read. She was not the only one. There was actually, it was a very popular Reddit post with like hundreds of comments. Other women feeling like, yeah, I feel the same. Like, you know, I took a salary cut, or I went back to work, no training. I feel so behind because no one's trained me on how to get back up to things. And, you know, deep in this post, there was actually someone's kind of made an insanely profound point. Like, okay, sure, you feel behind. Sure, you feel like you're a failure at work and a failure as a mum because you're not doing the mum thing right and you feel behind at work. But this is the perfect time to kind of ask yourself what your values are truly. Like, is your true number one calling in life to pursue and progress your corporate law career?
Yeah.
Or is your true value more aligned with like a really building an amazing household and building an amazing family? Because ultimately, you know, you can love your job and love your work, but your job won't love you back. If giving and giving and giving to your career fulfills you, then like go ahead and do that. But there's going to be...
And it doesn't. That is a profound thing. But you didn't say that until the end of the video. Basically, what you were saying is everything contra to that. Because truth of the matter, and you're challenged at work. You're not fulfilled. Men have always looked at work as a means to an end, and the family is that end. That work, you're working for work's sake. And once you come out of the stupor and realize that that's what you're doing, you're going to find yourself extraordinarily unfulfilled.
No time in the future where your boss gives you all the love and validation and support that you'd be looking for, or even your career as a whole. Like, what I was gathering from this post is, you know, your job won't love you back. That line, your job won't love you back, stood out to me. I was like, I never thought of that, but that makes so much sense. It's funny because right now I'm actually currently on my elderly medicine placement, complete opposite to what this video is talking about. But what I'm learning, actually, I'm learning a lot from working with elderly people at the moment, because a really common thing I've noticed is as you get older in life and as you kind of age, you lose a lot of friendships, a lot of the time quicker than you think. I can't remember the last time.
Now, this, I will give it to her for being 24. because you don't know that the younger you are. You actually have to live through that to realize, like, when you're young, you're on some player for life. And, I actually thought in junior high that these would be my friends forever. Like, man, ain't nothing gonna break us apart. And by like sophomore year of high school, the shit was over. Hey, you went to a different high school than me, so and I got new friends. Then the same from high school to college. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still some residuals that go back to high school, but that's few. It's very few. So yeah. Where was I going with that? But you actually have to live through it and know. You can't tell, a 12-year-old that, that you and homie probably won't be friends 10 years from now. He's not gonna believe you. I wouldn't believe him, I was like, nah, man, this is my boy, But life is unpredictable, especially city life. So, it's, you don't know where you're going to wind up. You don't know where he's going to wind up. So she is right. And the elderly person who is telling her this, she needs to listen. Hopefully she did. Because it's like, listen, your whole plan on everything banks on your whole life plan of happiness without family is based on that your career will be consistently fulfilling, throughout the entirety of your life. And that's not true. You don't even know if your career is still going to be there, because you mentioned that you're worried about, it being there a lot. So you'd like more than once in this video, which means that they don't love you. So. And it also relies on the prospect that these mimosa bitches are still going to be mimosa-ing when you're 50. Like that whole Sex in the City thing. Like those four bitches just kept getting together. And every now and again they'll get together again and let's go to Dubai. Let's go to Dubai and eat some mimosas in Dubai. And and then out of nowhere, you're at 50, you're gonna get some rich, handsome nigga that'll marry you and just like spend money on you to buy shoes. Listen, shit, it doesn't play out like that in real life. In real life, you can't be a gossip columnist for 50 fucking years because people don't read gossip columns anymore. Who in the hell reads magazines, yet alone magazines with your particular column that they seem to be paying you a full-time New York wage for, and they have been since forever? Who in the fuck reads that? No, in real life, magazines go out of business. And then you are on YouTube competing with everybody else for views. That's real life. Yeah, D. Scott said it best. Every female friend group is one relationship away from breaking up.
I spoke to an elderly patient like at work, and they were like, oh, my friend is coming, or like, oh, my my friend or my colleague, like whatever they say. Like, when someone's really ill, they're in a hospital, they're an elderly person, it's often like, my wife is coming, my family's coming, my grandchild is coming, my brother is coming. It's all family. And it's honestly making me think a lot, like, whew, sure as hell enjoy your friendships, make the friendships, connect with people, network, build your community. But like Christina, when it comes to you getting older, like a lot of the time what will be left is your family. I feel like it's a reminder for me, and maybe as well for you watching this video, when it comes to your support network, not just family, but even friends as well, because we'll have a lot of friends in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Like for a good chunk of our life, I feel like your happiness actually comes from who you're spending time with. And maybe when it's the right time, that will be a partner and a household and kids and a family. But in the meantime, I feel like it's just so important to pour into the people around you, because like I was saying, I mean, Harvard's longest ever study, it wasn't that health and fitness is the number one contributor to your well-being. It wasn't that a high-paying career was the number one contributor to your well-being. It was the people you have relationships with. I know what you're thinking. Oh, but it's so hard to make friendships nowadays. Like, it's 2025. Everyone's online. It's so hard to meet people in real life. A lot of us buy into the idea that we need to, if we're feeling lonely, I need to make more friends and, go up to more people. I need to put myself out there and bumble BFF. Actually, I'm a big believer. You don't need more friends. You just need connection. That is what I speak about in a lot more depth in this video. So if you're looking for something to watch next, then it should definitely be this.
I'm not
Please
gonna
let me
watch
know your
that.
thoughts on this in the comments below. I would love to read them. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
So here, she bought into a notion. Hold on, I have to stop the other video. But basically, she's confused. She's confused because she, like most women, feel that relationships should not take effort on a woman's part. A man does the approaching, a man does the work. He is courting her, which tells me that she's never actually really been in a serious relationship. That's okay because she's very young. But the real thing that's going on is that she don't want to put herself in a vulnerable position to where she needs someone for something, particularly a man. Because trust me, I have a penis and I could tell you that we do exploit needy women. So this is a defense mechanism that she has. But guess what? Like women exploit needy men and stuff like that, and we still risk our penis, on dates and shit like that. That's just how the game is played. It wouldn't be a game if there wasn't a possibility of you losing. However, what you're doing is you are telling yourself that you don't need that trophy being the children, the big eyes, like you can just get lost in them every day. You're trying to tell yourself, you're trying to convince yourself that it's not worth it. Having those people there on your final days, like you said in the geriatrics, it wasn't the friends that were there. It was the, it was the brothers, the wives, the husbands, the kids. It was those that was there in the final days. Okay, let me read some comments. Milk my babies. Damn right. She's a feminist. Yeah, I mean, she's a soft feminist, definitely. See, the funny thing about feminism, and this is how it was able to spread against women who really shouldn't be feminists, because, feminism was meant to really primarily benefit, ugly bitches, whores, and lesbians. But the reason why they were able to get women who don't necessarily fit into any of these categories is by saying that feminism is a way to receive the traditional relationship that they were looking for. And that's what she believes. She believes that if she holds out, men will be desperate enough to give her the relationships that she seeks on her terms. And that's more of this do nothing, get everything approach. But that may seem feasible. But if he's looking for the same thing, he's going to need to look for it in a younger vessel. So while you're holding out, you're also aging. And when you reach a certain age, he is going to be less interested, because instead of having like 6, kids with Dr. DNA in them, he may be able to yank out 1 or 2 in your vagina, later in life. So she's basically a feminist who believes that feminism will get them the life of a non-feminist woman. Every female friend group is one. Oh yeah, I read that one. Yeah, let's see. This is her slow motion hug moment. Okay. And you want to know what's interesting about the movie Waiting to Exhale? Because it's supposed to take place over the course of a year, meaning that it begins on New Year's Eve one year, and it ends on New Year's Eve the following year. Now, at the beginning of the movie, those bitches didn't have shit to do with each other. Like Angela Bassett was spending her New Year's with her husband. Whitney Houston was out looking for dick. And Layla Rashad was out, swooning over Leon, waiting to get some and eating popcorn. And Loretta Devine, she was out like getting pumped and dumped by her baby daddy, her gay baby daddy. If you don't want to attract great gay men, grow some fucking hair. Anyway, they came together because they were single. And that's all that is. Once Angela Bassett, husband left, she decided to call Whitney Houston and everybody else up on some, hey, big head. Oh, no, we besties now. Remember that 11 years I didn't want to have shit to do with you because I was so enthralled with my husband and family? Well, guess what? Now I'm bored. Type stuff. So you're right. Women who are together because of absence of my penis. She's lost in the sauce. Yeah, agreed. Minimum wage in 1975 is equal to $66 an hour in 2025. Let's take a look at this. Let me just check that. So it's 210. It was 210 in 1975. It's the equivalent to about $12.04 in 2023. Nah. No, it's not. So, yeah. Which is doable. Okay. She'll find out by 35. She know now. I mean, like if she basically what she's saying is she got elderly person after elderly person, just drilling into her head the value of relationship. But she's still reluctant because she's reluctant of valuing men that way. Because if she do so, she leaves herself vulnerable to something that she's not used to. A person who becomes that successful at that young of an age they're not used to rejection. And she just might get rejected. No, see, stop doing. Okay. It's not a matter of give me more money, I'll give you more babies. It's not a matter of that, because countries where they give people less money have more babies. Feminism was created by elite men and enforced by low-level men as a tool against other low-level men. It was a tool to protect their daughters. But come to find out that any tool can be made into a weapon. And that's what we have now. We have a tool that has been made to a weapon. Like a hammer can be used as a tool, or it can be used as a weapon, or it can be played with as a toy, which is what modern women is doing with their sexuality. Instead of using it to build families, which is what its intent was, it's used as a weapon or a toy. Get it, got it good. I actually met a young doctor, not in the UK, but in Dominican. She was bad as hell. I was trying to shoot my shot. Met her on a bus. So here I am with a translator trying to game her in Spanish. She said, you could talk regular to me. I speak English. I was like, oh, for real? And then, she was like, yes, I was educating it in England. I was like, oh, okay. That's what's up. She said, what do you study? She said, dentistry. I'm a dentist. And then I looked at her, I was like, listen, I'm not going to say I don't believe you, but where I come from, dentists are older and less attractive than you are. And then that's when she was the one that told me about the whole, UK universities is 3 years, not 2. And so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, she was on the bus. And so, yeah, I think you're right. I think that they're not getting paid like that. And after student loans, American doctors, it take them a while before they start being able to golf during the day. So it is what it is. All right. Anyway, yeah, that's it for me. That's it for me with 7 minutes remaining. I want to thank everybody that participated. And this is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.